Welcome to the Unlocked Podcast, a podcast where we decode human performance one gene at a time. I'm Tony, and this series isn't just about science. It's about unlocking the hidden power you carry in your biology so you can train smarter, live longer, and activate what most people think is fixed. We're going to talk about genes, healing, mental clarity, recovery, and even where science and soul start to meet. But we're starting with the foundation. Because most people don't know what DNA really is or how much control they actually have. What's up, everybody? I hope you are ready for today, because today I want to pull the camera all the way back. And the reason being is because a lot of people learn biology the same way kids dump puzzle pieces on a table. What does that mean? I'll give you an example. Like, one piece will say focus and another piece will say fat loss. One will say stress, one says sleep, another one says recovery, another one says muscle, one says brain. Then they stare at the table and wonder why nothing makes sense yet. And that is how a lot of people are walking around inside their body. They've got fragments. A gene here, a symptom there, a supplement over here, a habit tracker over there, a good workout, a bad night of sleep, a random wave of cravings, a sharp day, a foggy day. And because the pieces show up separately, people start thinking the body works separately. It doesn't. The body's not a drawer full of labeled parts. It's more like a living city at rush hour. And I know I abruptly got into this podcast and you're thinking like, he just jumped right in. Yes, this podcast is going to be a recap, and I'm going to break everything down, bringing everything kind of full circle. So back to what I was saying. So it's like a city at rush hour. Signals crossing, energy moving, hormones calling, audibles, nutrients getting routed, muscles adapting, the nervous system deciding what is safe, what is urgent, what can wait, what needs to be shut down, what needs to be turned up. Repair happening in one corner while inflammation is stirring in another. A bottleneck upstream, and suddenly something far away starts acting strange. So you think this issue is motivation. Maybe it's poor sleep and a loud stress response. You think the issue is appetite. Maybe your blood sugar is swinging, your recovery is thin, and your reward circuitry is pulling harder than usual. You think the issue is focus. Meanwhile, your nervous system is braced like it's waiting for impact. That's the episode today. Not one gene, not one problem. The whole system. And in a strange way, science had to grow up into that view too. Early genetics was often taught in a simple, elegant form. One gene, one trait, one mutation, one disease. And for certain rare conditions, that model is still useful. But as biology got deeper, the body got louder. Genomics, neuroscience, physiology, systems biology, all of them started pointing in the same direction. Real life does not run on one neat switch at a time. It runs on intersection. And that's where, I want to pick up the thread from the first 10 episodes, because those episodes were never random. And for anybody who did celebrate with me, leave a comment or their email on my Instagram, I did deliver a free workout. And in the future, I will be giving workouts based on your genetic information. So anybody interested, please don't hesitate to ask. Remember, my goal is always to help improve humanity and make sure that in this stage where AI is now becoming prevalent, we are improving ourselves as well. So again, my last few episodes were never random. They were the same organism seen through different windows. So here we go. We started with DNA and gene expression. That was the foundation under everything else. Gene expression is the process of turning genetic information into functional biological output. So right away, the show was never about only what gene you carry. It was about what your body is actually doing with that gene. Is it being upregulated, downregulated, supported, stressed? Is the environment around it helping or hurting the way that biology gets expressed? That idea changes the whole emotional tone of genetics, because now biology is no longer just inheritance. It becomes an interaction. Then we moved into BDNF, which is brain-derived neurotrophic factor. Me personally, that was one of my favorite episodes to do. Other people like my meditation episode, and I'll go a little bit more into that. But basically, BDNF is one of the major molecules tied to neuroplasticity, which is the brain's ability to change through experience, repetition, challenge, and learning. For years, people talked about the adult brain like it was mostly set, like the concrete had already dried. Then neuroscience kept punching holes in that idea. No, the brain is still adaptable. Not infinitely, not effortlessly, but far more than people used to think. That means your repeated thoughts are not nothing. Your repeated behaviors are not nothing. Your repeated environments are not nothing. The brain is always being taught what to become more efficient at. Then, COMT came in and sharpened that chemistry. COMT helps break down catecholamines, especially dopamine, epinephrine, and norepinephrine. Those are chemical messengers involved in alertness, motivation, stress response, and the quality of focus itself. So once you understand COMT, you stop treating mental performance like it comes from willpower alone. The same situation can hit two people very differently depending on how their signaling chemistry is being handled. Pressure can lock in on one person. The same pressure can scatter somebody else. Noise can wake one person up. The same noise can fry someone already running hot. This really isn't a fantasy. This is chemistry beating context. And that was COMT. Then ACTN3 brought us into structure. Learning about this gene was really eye-opening because it explained athletic performance. And ACTN3 brought us into that structure again. ACTN3 affects alpha-actinin 3, a protein found mainly in fast-twitch muscle fibers. Those fibers are built more for explosive force and power output. So that episode reminded us that not everybody enters training with the same exact physical architecture. Some differences can come from programming, some from coaching, some from recovery, some from effort, and some are part of the deeper blueprint. So stacking those together, gene expression tells you the system is responsive. BDNF tells you your brain is adaptable. COMT tells you chemistry shapes your experience, and ACTN3 tells you your structure influences output. Already, the body is refusing to behave like a simple machine. Then, we shifted into something that sounded more behavioral with momentum before motivation. But underneath that episode was biological too. People like to imagine motivation shows up first and behavior follows, but a lot of the time, behavior comes first, then evidence, then momentum. Then the brain starts updating identity around what has been repeated. Behavioral science, learning theory, and neuroplasticity all keep circling the same truth. Repetition trains the organism. The brain starts predicting from patterns. The body starts expecting what you keep rehearsing. So behavior is not sitting outside of biology. Behavior is one of the tools biology uses to shape itself. Then, resetting that system, we brought in nervous system states. And state changes almost everything. Breathing, sleep, cravings, patience, tension, digestion, focus, decision-making, recovery, trauma, science, autonomic nervous system research, performance psychology, and breathwork traditions all kept arriving at similar conclusions from different directions. The state of the nervous system affects what the rest of the system can do. So when somebody says, I know what to do, but I still can't seem to do it, sometimes the real problem is not your knowledge that you have. Sometimes the real problem is your state. Now, that one was fun for me as well, because doing the yoga and got to have a nice, cool voice. I mean, I do practice yoga. There was even a time where I was thinking about becoming a yoga teacher. Maybe that's still in the cards for me. But just for a momentary pause, yoga is so beneficial for the mind. I'm into all types of fun things. I'm into fantasy, werewolves, warlocks. Fantasy, I think I said that again, but so meditation has always been at the forefront of some of the magical powers or mind states that allow these characters to excel in their respective stories. So moving on, after our state and autonomic nervous system research, we then got into MTHFR, a gene that the internet loves to either worship or panic over. MTHFR is involved in methylation, a biochemical process that helps move methyl groups through the body. Tiny chemical transfers, huge downstream consequences. Methylation affects homocysteine metabolism, folate handling, DNA regulation, neurotransmitter-related pathways, and broader biochemical efficiency. Once researchers started mapping those pathways more clearly, it became obvious that enzyme differences, nutrient status, and biochemical support could influence how steady or unsteady a person feels. And not in a magic way, even though that's something I'm interested in, not in a cartoon way, and that too I do find myself enjoying time to time, but in a physiological way. Then we went into synergistic versus antagonistic supplements, and that it was never just about pills and powders. It was about the context. Nutrients can support each other, compete with each other, alter absorption, influence enzymes, create bottlenecks, or relieve them. So the question stopped being, is this supplement good? And a better question became, good for what system and what state and under what demand? These are the type of questions that make biochemistry stop seeming like a trivia, and they become way more useful. Then FTO widened the appetite conversation. FTO became famous through large-scale association studies looking at body weight and appetite-related patterns across population. What made that episode important was not just the gene itself, it was the interpretation. Appetite is not just a moral issue. Hunger, satiety, reward, sleep, food environment, energy balance, stress, and genetic tendency all interact. Again, remember, big city, lots of lights. So when someone feels like food has more gravitational pull than it should, that does not automatically mean a weak character. It may mean the terrain is just different. A simple way to think about FTO is that you're not removing responsibility. If anything, it's giving responsibility, just with a more honest map. And last but not least, we did APOE, and we stretched the timeline. Lipid transport, repair, brain resilience, risk, and aging. To sum it all up, APOE reminded us that genetics is not only about what happens in the gym this week or how focused you feel tomorrow morning. Some genes shape long arc patterns. Some genes affect the maintenance side of life, the transport side, the repair side, the slow unfolding side. And with APOE, we had to hold something many people struggle to hold. Risk can be real without it becoming your entire way of living. So that being said, we step back. What have these episodes actually been building? And we've been building a real model of the organism. Not a list, not trivia, not disconnected insights, but a model. You have a genetic layer, a signaling layer, a structural layer, a biochemical layer, a behavioral layer, a nervous system state layer, a long arc repair layer. And these layers are not politely taking turns. They're talking over each other constantly. And if we don't understand or listen to the person talking, it becomes a blur. This is why poor sleep can look like a motivation issue, why chronic stress can look like a focus issue, why under recovery can look like an appetite issue. You get my drift. The organism is always negotiating, always compensating, always adapting, always telling the truth, even when the truth is inconvenient. And once you understand that, you stop hunting for one magic answer to explain everything. Then you start asking a better question. What is the real pressure point in the system right now? And that brings me to the protocols for today. Of all episodes, I want this episode to leave people with something clean, practical, and repeatable. So here's the weekly systems check. Once a week, sit down for 10 minutes and look at 5 categories. First, state. What state has your nervous system been living in lately? Calm, wired, brace, restless, shut down, reactive, steady. Start there, because state changes what feels possible. Second, your chemistry. How supported is your body right now at the chemical level? Look at sleep, hydration, protein intake, digestion, meal quality, micronutrients, and whether your current supplements are actually helping the system or just making you feel like you're doing something. Third, behavior. What have you repeated enough that your body is now starting to memorize it? Habits build momentum in both directions. So do avoidance patterns. Fourth, adaptation. Are you giving the system the right amount of challenge with enough recovery for growth to actually happen? That can mean training, learning, emotional work, skill building, nervous system practice, all of it. And the fifth thing, bottleneck. What is the one thing creating the most drag across everything else right now? Not 10 things, just one. Because most people keep attacking the symptom while the bottleneck quietly runs the whole show. They chase discipline when the real issue is dysregulation. They chase focus when the real issue is sleep debt. They chase appetite control when the real issue is stress and recovery. They chase supplements when the real issue is chaos. And they chase motivation when the real issue is they've built no momentum. So find the bottleneck and suddenly the system will stop feeling so mysterious. And that's one of the biggest gifts science can give a person. Not just with more facts, but better aim. Because the point of learning biology is not becoming a walking glossary. It's to understand what kind of creature you're working with. And we are a responsive creature, a trainable one, a compensating one. We're a body that is always adapting to what is repeatedly experienced. So if the first 10 episodes felt like separate doors, let this one be the one that shows you the building. You were never learning random topics. I hate to say it, but I'm saying it. You were learning how the organism speaks. And that is episode 11. Now, for everyone who thought that this episode was going to be a little bit more dynamic, a little bit more science-y, don't worry. The science is coming, and you will have a lot of different protocols, a lot of different mechanisms. But I just wanted to let you guys know that we have the most intricate, complex, yet simple thing right here in the universe. And the more we know about it, the better we're able to function, to evolve, create, adapt, you name it. But again, if we don't have that information, we subject ourselves to outcomes that we may have not intended. And that's a conversation for another time. But I want to always close out the episode like I usually do. Remember, your biology listens. Live like it.